Welcome back to Cultural Geography. This is the first video of week 4. By this point, you should have turned in your week 3 packets, picked up your week 4 packets. Hopefully, you all remember that you should not have turned in the cultural metaphor notes. You need these notes in order to do the class, and actually that's where we are picking up at. We were halfway through the cultural metaphor for Israel, the Israeli kibbutzim, and we are going to pick up. Remember, this book is from the book Understanding Global Cultures by Martin J. Gannon. So, let's resume where we left off. Traumas, worldview, and personality. The Jews have experienced proportionally more traumas than most, if not all major cultural groups. For example, the Holocaust and the continuing struggle with their Arab neighbors. More than 6 million Jews, about 1/3 of the world's entire Jewish population, died during the Holocaust of World War II. Out of World War II came sympathy to help the Jews establish their own nation once and for all. This movement was called Zionism. In 1948, the country of Israel was formed. One day later, all of Israel's Arab neighbors declared war and invaded. Though Israel won, it was a costly 6-month war. Again in 1956, 1967, and 1973, Israel's neighbors invaded, hoping to wipe out the nation. Again, Israel defeated its enemies. Not only has Israel had to deal with Arab threats from its neighbors, but there are over 1 million Palestinians in Israel that wish to create their own nation. Terrorism and violence on both sides has been the norm for Israel. Probably because of all this, it helps to explain the obsessive suspicions, especially of outsiders, that the Jews have. They desire self-reliance at all costs. They do not let themselves forget the problems that have been thrust upon them. There are many national monuments memorializing the atrocities of the Holocaust. Israel has lived in a state of geographic and political isolation. Israel has had no allies in their region, and their Western-style culture is different from the Islamic culture of its neighbors. This claustrophobic isolation has given rise to pessimism, stubbornness, and preparedness for anything for the Israelis. Fact is, the never-ending state of war has brought about an awareness of a fatalistic attitude that there is no choice. This fortress mentality has done much to shape their mindset. There is a tendency also to shy away from feelings. They have committed themselves to a literalness, a matter-of-fact objectivity which has no place for emotions. This claustrophobia drives many Jews to leave Israel, sometimes for good. A quote from the book that I'm getting this information from says, "An Israeli couple goes on a tour of the United States and stops to visit a relative's friends who had moved to the United States several years earlier. When the visitor asks their hosts when they plan to return to Israel, the host says, 'You have caught us literally sitting on our suitcases, all packed and ready to go. We are just waiting until our son finishes college, and then we'll hurry back to our beloved Israel.' When the visitors inquire about the son's age, they are astonished to learn that he is already 3 years old. Apparently not that much in a hurry to return to Israel. The large influx of Jewish immigrants to Israel has also influenced their worldview. Recognize that not all Jews believe the same thing or act the same way. There are, for example, the Ashkenazim Jews and the Sephardim Jews. The Ashkenazim Jews are from Europe, America, and Australia, and they were the ones who first led the movement of Zionism and established Israel. The Sephardim Jews are from the Arab Middle East and North Africa and were generally poor, less educated, and less trained to get a job. Mixing these two cultures of Jews has proved to be a difficult thing to do. There's also serious conflict that exists between religious and secular Jews. We're going to divide them up into 5 groups real quickly. Secular Jews. This is about 50% of the people in Israel, and they are secular Jews. The establishing of Israel and celebrating the holidays were substitutes themselves rather than a means to religious worship. Number 2, you have religious Zionists. This consists of about 25% of the people. They support the new nation, but do not think it a substitute for the synagogue and religion of Judaism. The third group are known as Messianic Jews, about 5% of the population. They believe the establishment of Israel was the first step that will conclude when the Jewish Messiah arrives to set up his kingdom. The fourth group include the ultra-Orthodox non-Zionist Jews. This is about 15% of the people. They're the ones who wear the black coats and the hats. They believe that Israel will only be worth celebrating after the Messiah comes and rules through the Jewish law of the Old Testament. And then the last group of people living here, a large group, are the secular Russians. About 800,000 Russians fled the Soviet Union after its collapse and settled in Israel. So given such strong opinions and points of view, it is not surprising that these groups clash fiercely over the relationship of state and religion. The common perception is that Israelis are impolite, arrogant, and brash. For example, the high-risk, macho-manner Israeli driving. They do not keep the proper driving distance between cars because of the fear that someone will cut ahead of them. Drivers honk if the car in front of them does not move within a nanosecond of the traffic light turning green. They are quick to react, to scold, to act impolitely, but they're also quick to calm down. In fact, there is relatively little violence among Jews. Rape, murder, extortion, and other violent crimes are rather low in Israel. The streets at night are usually safe. Israelis are generally very direct people as well. Taking another quote from the book, here goes. They are eager to get down to business, to get right to the heart of things. The little extra graces that give the Middle East its charm and style are seen by Israelis as useless decorations, impediments that only waste time. Everything is up front without pretense, and matters are stripped down to bare essentials. Israelis almost never phrase things with, "I think," or "it seems to me," like the classical American way of avoiding hurting others. They will simply attack the issue with, "You are wrong." Here's another quote that I liked from the book. "Don't take offense, as I am going to speak frankly and be critical, so get ready, but realize it is not personal." They are very business-oriented. There are actually management programs that train Israelis to be polite to American executives, otherwise they would be seen as too blunt. Informality is the norm in Israel. People introduce themselves to strangers using only their first name. First names are used between employees and employers, school children and their teachers. Don't try that at home, kids. And soldiers and their commanders. They seek to de-emphasize status and power distance between individuals, and they have little patience for formality or protocol. For example, Israeli men rarely wear a suit and tie. Oh, that'd be nice. It is common to simply drop by a friend's house without calling in advance. When someone says, "Why don't you drop by?" they actually mean it in Israel. Israelis prefer to take action to control situations and overcome environmental problems. They are the classic doing society. Although Americans like to think of themselves in a similar fashion, the Israelis far outshine even us. Israel is also an intellectual society. A high percentage of people have university degrees, and the number of books bought per capita is one of the highest in the world. Let's answer 5 questions. See how much you guys recall from last week's lesson as well as today's lesson into answering the 5 cultural metaphor questions. First one, what is the cultural metaphor of Israel? Yes, you got it, without even having to look back, the Israeli kibbutzim. So let's answer these 5 questions. Question number 1, are they process or goal-oriented? The answer is goal. Very goal-oriented. They want to get the job done. Are they expressively emotional or not so much? The answer is not so much. They are not expressively emotional. Are they individualistic or collectivistic? Correct answer is both, actually. They are both. Or in the middle works as well. Do they have a high power ranking or a low power ranking? Answer, low power ranking. Remember, they don't have a desire for any authority telling them what to do. And lastly, are they past oriented or future oriented? The answer again is both. They are both past and future oriented. That's all the notes that we're going to cover for today. Hopefully you were able to finish this culture metaphor handout notes. We will pick up with the regular notes tomorrow. Be good, do good. Bye.